Now I'm going to pass it over to our speaker today. This is Craig Klein's going to be joining us, and just as part of the intro, I'd like to let you know the way I know Craig Klein is we actually use his software. One of my businesses is called Launchpad Solutions. We do appointment setting, and we actually we're using Salesforce.com to manage all of our calls and interactions, and we actually switched over to Sales Nexus about 3 years ago to now we use that as our email marketing and CRM, and that's why we've become a loyal customer to Craig. And Craig, I'll pass it over to you. It's all yours.
All right, thanks, Michael, and welcome everybody. This is our second webinar, and we really appreciate y'all joining us, and hopefully you'll get a lot out of today's webinar and register for the others that are coming up. Really some great topics and some great experts on things that are important to all of us in growing our businesses. So just a little background on me. I have been in the selling world for over 20 years. Spent the first part of my career in the energy business here in Houston, managing and hiring and firing and training salespeople to work with major oil exploration companies. And since starting Sales Nexus, we've been around now for over 10 years, and we morphed from originally a very simple but sort of early web-based CRM to now a comprehensive CRM and email marketing and lead generation solution. So today, what I want to get to is I want to talk a little bit about what we're all struggling with when it comes to email marketing and why what you may have tried isn't working. We'll talk about the fundamental principles that do work in today's market, and we'll really get into a very simple process so that you can create your own campaigns that will engage customers and pre-qualify them for sales contact or movement to, a second or third tier in your funnel or your email campaigns themselves. And we'll get into that in detail. So, the Sales Growth Hub is all about the fact that as a business owner, I've experienced it, Michael's experienced it, we've all experienced it. There's so much that you feel like you need to be doing to market your business and connecting with customers. And it's overwhelming, especially if you're new to all of that stuff. It's too much to even understand. It's too much to manage. And for a small business, it's too much to afford, for sure. And I think the same thing can be true of email marketing. It can be very intimidating for people that haven't done it before, and we have a tendency to try some things initially that are really not likely to work very well. And I want to talk about why it doesn't work and how that can kind of just shut you down. You have an initial experience that's not so good, and then you just stop doing it, and you're missing out on this huge opportunity. The great opportunity is that email marketing is super affordable. In fact, with Lead Ferret, who Michael mentioned earlier, a member of the Sales Growth Hub, great resource to build up your email list. Free to an extent. And even if you want tens of thousands of contacts, very, very affordable to build up your email list. And then create a few emails and send them out. Much more affordable way to generate some interest in your company, generate leads for your sales team than just about any other kind of marketing, if you do it right. And so that's what hopefully you'll get out of today's webinar. So here's what most people are doing with email marketing today, right? When I start my email marketing for the first time, somebody somewhere tells me, well, you need to just have a newsletter. And that's going to have, news, maybe links to some blog articles or news about new people on my staff, or, Shelly, the receptionist, had a baby, or maybe some updates about products, new features, things like that, which can be good, right? or maybe it's invitations to events. You know, you're going to have a booth at the upcoming trade show, and be sure and come by and see us there, or we're having a luncheon, or we're doing a webinar, etc. Or we send out emails that are really trying to sell something, you know, that specific calls to action. Hey, sign up now and you'll save 25% on, you know, anything you buy today or whatever. Hey, nothing wrong with any of that, but it's only going to work a very small percentage of the time, and more importantly, it's not going to work for very long. Why doesn't it work? Well, your emails look like everybody else's. That's number one. Number two is most people who are new to it don't realize that today over 50% of the emails that you send out get read on a mobile device. And so when I create that nice looking newsletter template that looks like a newsletter, you know, it's got 3 different columns with all sorts of detailed information and links and stuff like that, that thing looks like crap on your mobile phone. So guess what? Delete. And then, like I talked about, most of us are sending our messages to the wrong people at the wrong time. But most importantly, we're talking about ourselves in our emails. We're not talking about our customers. Guess what? Maybe your customers care about what's in your newsletter, the people that have already done business with you, especially if you're in a business where you do a lot of repeat business. Sure, there's a place for talking about what's going on with you. But if I'm not a customer yet, if I don't even know who you are, I don't care. As soon as I see your email talking about you and what's great about you, delete. I'm not even going to read it. Now, that's what's going wrong. We're going to talk about how to fix it today. Here is the opportunity. All of these different segments in your funnel or your sales process are a great opportunity for an email campaign. One of the key points here is that you can't send the same emails to all these different segments, right? So a cold lead, you know, somebody that has been engaged with your sales team but didn't buy, you know, so they've been sort of taken off the hot prospect list. That's a great opportunity to send them educational, informative content that's going to keep them engaged with you because they're still at the learning phase. They're not ready to put their credit card down on the table. Same thing with referrals and networking. You know how that goes, right? A buddy of yours refers you to a friend of his who he thinks would be a great customer for you. But when you end up talking to that guy, it turns out, sure, he might be a good customer one day, but it's not really on the top of his agenda today. So if you just hit him over the head with sales pitches over and over again, you're just going to turn him off. So you want to send him educational and informative content. Now, when somebody comes to your website and they fill out some form, you know, sign up for my free trial or get a quote today or something like that, where they're really doing something that tells you they have some real interest in your business, now things change. Now we can start to send them things that are a little more about you. I've listed some things here: competitive comparisons, case studies, you know, how other customers have benefited from your products and services, and specific calls to action, you know. And then as they move through the funnel, qualified prospects, same thing, testimonials or something that can be very effective at that point. And then once they become a client, what you want to send is things that tell them how to use your product, and also upsell and cross-sell opportunities. Same thing with existing clients, you know, as they sort of mature and get settled into your products. And then as clients move on and go do business with your competition perhaps, or maybe just stop using your product for some reason, you want to essentially put them back on that educational and informative content, and that's a great opportunity to send a survey because you're going to learn a lot from those guys. So the idea here is that no matter where people fall out of your sales process, And in most of our businesses, most people fall out of the sales process. That, they don't become customers, right? If you're closing 20, 25% of your leads, you're doing good, right? So that means 80, 75% are not making it all the way to the end. We want to have a process that recycles those guys and just takes them and puts them into a hopper and starts hitting them with the right kind of messages to move them back into the funnel and through the funnel. So that's new leads, qualified prospects, cold leads, new clients, all of them. There's a place for emails with each of those segments, but again, it's got to be the right message at the right time. So here's what most people get wrong. You see the line I have here above the funnel where it says lead conversion. If I haven't converted, meaning I haven't filled out a form on your site saying I want to talk to a salesperson or give me a free trial or something like that, or I haven't picked up the phone and called you, or I haven't hit reply to one of your emails and said, hey, I'd like to know more about that. Any of those things, that's me saying, hey, I might be interested in being a customer. But before I've done that, guess what? I haven't decided that I even have a problem, much less that I want to talk to you about fixing it. So don't try to sell me anything. You need to educate me, help me understand the problem, and then I'll decide to fix it. And if you're the one that helped me realize I have a problem, guess who I'm going to call when I want to fix it, right? So that's the idea here. This is just another quick bit of facts here that's pretty powerful. 50% of inbound leads are not ready to purchase immediately. So meaning, if you're spending a lot of time driving traffic to your website, guess what? 50% of the people that are filling out your form really aren't ready yet. So again, if your sales process is just get them on the phone and close them, guess what? Most of those guys aren't going to close. And if you don't have a process to take them and nurture them, you're just throwing that away. You can see here, only 2% of sales are made on the first contact. 80% require 5 to 12 contacts. That's where email can be so powerful, right? Because it's a low-cost way to do it. And if you do it right, it can be just as effective as a sales call. So another quick tip for those of you who are investing in driving traffic to your site and generating leads through the website, responding to those leads quickly is the name of the game. If you don't respond within an hour, you basically might as well not. Because what most people don't realize is that when somebody goes and searches for some business solution, for instance, they're probably going to go to your site, but also 2 or 3 of your competitors' sites. And they may fill out the form on 2 or more of those sites, right? So if you don't respond quickly, but your competition does, guess who's in the driver's seat? There's a lot of studies out there about this now, and basically you got about an hour to respond. And if you don't, then your odds of success go way down. So you want to have an auto-response email going out, and if you're in any kind of a industry where there's a sales process, you want a salesperson on the phone with those folks within an hour. So in order to manage that, you really got to have some automation in place. The good news is that there's real money in this. Think about it. If you're closing 20% of the leads that come in from however you're getting them, trade shows, referrals, your website, cold calling, whatever, you close 20% or 2 out of every 10 leads. Well, that leaves 80% that you're not closing, right? So if you take that 80% and just put them on some sort of a drip campaign that will keep them engaged with your company and help them learn more about how the problem that they have and how to solve it. When they're ready, they'll contact you. And if you just close 20% of those guys over time, when they come back, when they're ready, that's a 16% of those customers, of those cold leads, if you will. So that's an 80% increase in sales. You can almost double your sales by doing this. So it's definitely worth doing. So today, hopefully what we're going to do is help you feel comfortable with taking those first few steps and make sure that you're going to have some initial success with that. Okay, so I've kind of touched on this already, but just to emphasize it, sales pitches don't work. Don't do it. It's hard not to. I know. You sit down and write that email, and you start talking like a salesperson. And you got to stop yourself. Don't talk about you. Don't tell them how wonderful your product is. Don't tell them how you're so much better than the competition. Learn how to talk about them. So we talked about this before. Don't try and sell me what I don't think I need. Have I even become aware that, whatever, my vehicle maintenance costs are too high? They've been what they've been for the last 5 years. They haven't gone up or gone down. I don't know I have a problem. So don't send me an email saying, you're spending too much on vehicle maintenance. I might think I'm doing pretty good on that. You first got to send me some emails that help me become aware of the problem. So to create this campaign, all we have to do is write down 4 pain questions. 4 questions that really touch the sore spot in your prospect. What's keeping them up at night? And then based on those questions, we're going to find some content that you can use in your emails or reference in your emails. And then we're going to write some emails. That's it. It's not rocket science. So, and then the email is going to be educational and informative. And so this is an example. You can see this isn't exactly the way the email ended up looking. This is kind of a draft that we were working on with the client. But it's not, we're not putting a whole lot of time and money into beautiful design here. That's not really the point. You can also see that we're not spending a whole lot of text on this because that's counterproductive. Again, it's tough. You sit down to write an email, you know all of the things that customers want to know about your product and service, and it's hard not to try and tell them everything in an email. But I'm telling you, it just doesn't work. Again, think of that guy sitting in the doctor's office checking his email. If your email is 3 pages long on his phone, delete. You got to get right to the point. So this is a company that sells a cloud computing service. And their target market is business executives, not IT folks, but business executives that are interested in cloud computing, but really don't even understand it yet. So cloud computing, that's a buzzword. You hear it a lot. There's a lot of people that really aren't clear on what the heck that means, right? And so that's what this email is about. Cloud computing, is it right for you? Okay, if I'm an executive who's, been in some, maybe I've been sitting around with some of my buddies and one of them mentioned they were putting all their computing infrastructure in the cloud, then I might think, okay, well, I'm going to take a look at this email. Why should your business consider cloud computing? Is IT infrastructure costing too much? Did you know many companies' revenue growth is limited by IT infrastructure? This short video should answer these questions for you. That's it. Frankly, just this image, that makes it clear as soon as I look at that email, that if I click right here, I'm going to get to see a video. That's really the name of the game. If you can use video in your emails, do it. It increases the click rate by 2 times on average. But you can see here, this isn't really, a complex email. The trick is knowing those pains. IT infrastructure costing too much. That's a pain. Revenue growth is limited by IT infrastructure. That's a pain. If you can figure out what those are for your business, you're in business. Sorry, I hit the wrong button and went backwards there. And oh, here we go. Sorry, I got to load all these sections here. So let's talk about the pain. The pain is, like I said before, it's what's keeping me up at night. Why? What do I need? What's the challenge that I have? What is the process or system or employee-related issue that your product or service addresses for me? Or even better, that's the technical pain. The business pain would be, how does that process being broken or inefficient cost me money or limit my profits? And then the personal pain is, if my profits are limited, I'm not bringing home as much bacon, and I can't go on that vacation I was planning with my family, right? If you can take it to the personal pain level, that's going to be most effective, because in the end, people don't buy, even business products, they don't buy them for the rational reasons that they discuss with you in the meeting when they're signing the order. They buy them for totally personal, emotional reasons, and if you can connect with those, you're going to be very effective. Now, one thing I want to be sure and mention is that if you haven't tried the sales scripter yet, you should. You can go and start a free account, and it will walk you through a series of questions to elicit all of this, your technical, business, and personal pains. So this is not an overstatement. It will literally provide you with the output that you need to create these emails. So I highly encourage you to go try out the sales scripter, because then you're going to be able to write an email like this. So forget about the video. You're going to put your video there, but it's going to say, is your insert your pain causing negative results? Is insert your pain slowing your business down? Is dealing with that pain keeping you from reaching your goals? That's really it. If you're sending the emails to the right people, you know, they're the right level of person in the organization, they're the right size company, they're the right they're in the right industry for you, then that kind of email will get results. No question about it. We've seen it over and over again. So, I mean, just look at that. This is not hard to do. This is simple. So I'll give you another example here. This is a customer that put together a series of about 5 or 6 emails like that were sort of pain-focused, like the one that I just showed you. But then at the end, they put together this one, and it was their most effective email. So this is a company that helps companies source products in China. Manufacturers is their primary target customer. And so the first few emails were hitting on the pains that manufacturers suffer that cause them to consider manufacturing products in China. And so this one then, after seeing all those other videos highlighting the pain, and they had some really great videos talking about the struggles of finding a supplier in China and so on. This one basically addresses what it turns out is really most people's biggest pain associated with that, which is, I'm just not sure if I'm ready for this, or if I'm the right kind of business to be manufacturing in China. And so this thing, you know, see if China is a viable option for your bottom line by taking this short test. And they've got you can see they even put a picture of the test, so you can see how quick and short it's going to be. I think that was really a real key to the success of this. But again, super simple. You don't need a...
Hey, Craig, I'm sorry, I thought
Yeah.
you were done on that one thought there. Got a couple questions around subject lines. subject lines that can help grab the prospect's attention. You want to talk about that?
Sure. Yeah, we're gonna hit on that a couple of different times here, but the subject line is just a statement of the pain. So in this case, the subject line might be, are manufacturing costs too high? Is manufacturing in the U.S. Slowing your business down? Is considering manufacturing overseas but concerned? Or is this your first time to look for manufacturing overseas? Whatever. I mean, I could go on and on, but you just want to figure out what that pain is and ask a question. Do you have this pain? Is this pain causing you some problem? That's really it. Now, I'm glad that a lot of people are asking about the subject line, because that is, without doubt, the #1 most important factor in your email marketing success. So I'll just take this opportunity to go ahead and explain how that works. If you think about how you check email in your life, most people go to the inbox and they first scan all of those emails that have come in, overnight, for names that they recognize. So you're looking at the from field, and you're looking in any email that's from a customer that you recognize, or an employee, or friends, or family. You're going to read those, right? And you're probably going to do all of that first. And then only after you've done all of that, then you'll look at the ones from people that you don't recognize. And if you read the subject line and like that, if it gets your attention, then you'll read that email. So my point is, when you're sending a marketing email to somebody who probably doesn't know who you are, if that subject line doesn't get their attention, your email is going to be deleted before they ever even see what's in the email. So, subject line is absolutely crucial. Here's just another example. This is a company that does window replacement and siding replacement and so on. And, pretty simple. See some examples. And this got a really great response. Just the picture shows them what they're going to see when they click the link, and then they just see a lot more before and after examples. So this would be a really simple example of like a case study type or a testimonial type of thing. This is the kind of stuff we do. So one of the keys to this is the content, right? These emails that I've shown you, again, they didn't talk about the product or service being offered at all. They talked about what's going on in the customer's life and what they're looking for. And they point them to some kind of content. Mostly the ones I've shown you have been a video or the test that we talked about. So a lot of you are probably sitting out there going, well, this all sounds great, except for one thing. I don't have any videos. So what am I going to do? I don't know how to create a nice-looking video. I don't have the budget for that. And I hear you. I've been there. First of all, I'd encourage you to start trying to create your own videos, because it's really not all that tough once you get started. But you just got to take the first few steps. But that's a whole other webinar. For the purposes of today's discussion, what we teach customers to do is find content that's out there in the public domain, so you don't have to create your own. So once you've identified what those pains are, you go to SalesScripter, you answer a few questions, it gives you your list of pains. Take those pains and put them in Google and do a search and see what comes up. And what you're going to find is there'll be articles on, big news sites like the Wall Street Journal or Forbes.com or Inc.com or something like that. Those are great, because what you're doing there is you're associating yourself with this big recognizable brand. So that's good. Then you'll also find a lot of videos as well. and those can be great too. So just to clarify a couple of things there. First of all, there's nothing wrong or unethical with this. You're directing traffic to these people's content that they've produced. So they like that. They're happy for you to do that. It's good for you because what it's allowing you to do is establish yourself as a resource for helpful and valuable information for your audience. And you're going to use the email marketing system to measure who clicked and read that article or watched that video. And now you know, out of the 1,000 people I sent the email to, here's the 10 or 20 that I probably should pick up the phone and call because they watched that video. Especially in a business, a B2B product or service, people don't take time to read stuff like this or watch videos even if they don't have a real problem. They don't have a need. So this is a great way to qualify prospects. So, pretty simple, right? To write that email, figure out what the pains are. Write that subject line so that it really highlights that pain. We were talking to a company that is in the recruiting business earlier. And one of the things that they mentioned, very competitive industry, right? If you've ever worked with recruiters, you know that there's a lot of them out there, and it's, they kind of all look the same on some level. And what these guys said was their way of differentiating themselves was that they provided sort of a comprehensive service so that the customer didn't need to work with 5 different recruiters. They could just work with them, and these guys were almost like outsourcing the whole process for their customers. So we talked about, okay, well, what are the pains that we could leverage that would really highlight the value of that service that they offer? And so it got right down to stuff like we were talking about frustrated with working with multiple vendors or multiple recruiters, sorry. That's a great subject line for them. So use that pain in the subject line, use it in the emails. Ask questions. Do you have this pain? Is this costing you money? Is this slowing you down? Is this frustrating you? Keep it super short and use video if you can. Like we talked about, that'll increase your click rate by 2 times. So the process, again, is write down 4 or 5 pain questions and then go find that content and then just sit down and write those emails. Do you have this pain? Are you suffering from this? Is this keeping you up at night? It really, really is that simple. The other thing to keep in mind is this doesn't have to be perfect on day one. I think that's something that gets people kind of stuck a lot of times. What I hear customers say to me all the time is, well, I don't want to send this out to my list and have them all opt out. Well, that's a valid concern. But if you do this right, we're going to take more of a sort of, what's the catchphrase I'm thinking of? Measure twice, cut once sort of approach. We're going to start slow, and we're going to measure what happens and build on that and adjust as we go. So in your email marketing system, and this is just a little screenshot I took out of Sales Nexus from a campaign, so it's going to tell you out of all the emails you sent out, how many people opened it, how many people clicked on it, how many people opted out, right? Well, the opens tell you, did they like the subject line or not, right? So like we talked about, if that subject line worked, you're going to see a high open rate. So if you send out maybe 2 or 3 different emails and you see one of them had a real low open rate and another one had a high open rate, well, you want to look at that one with the high open rate and the subject line you had there and try to emulate that. Obviously, that one got people's attention. The click rate, the number of clicks that you get is, how many people actually click to read the article or watch the video. Those are the people basically saying, you need to call me because I have a problem that I think you can fix. That's the way to read that. In terms of analyzing the data, if you have from one email to the next, the clicks are markedly lower, then that's telling you that what you wrote in that email, or maybe even the video or the article that you were linking to, just wasn't getting people's attention. So you want to take a second look at that. So that's what I was talking about. For instance, when you start a free trial of Sales Nexus, you also get access to 500 contacts from Ferret every month at no charge. So a great way to test this whole concept is go to Ferret, get your 500 contacts in the industry that you target, set up your 2 or 3 emails, and send them out. And then go in and look at this data and adjust the subject lines and adjust what's in the emails based on what the data is telling you. And it may take you a couple of iterations of that to really get to where you're feeling good about it. But only then should you go and send it out to your whole big list, So again, we're going to test things and really let the marketplace tell you if you've hit the mark or not. So you're not just, operating in a vacuum. The other reason I wanted to show you this screenshot here is that this is how you're going to use this as a prospecting tool. I send out my email blast or my ongoing campaign with these emails where the subject line is targeting the pain and the email itself is targeting the pain, and I'm offering informative content that addresses that pain. Then I'm going to go into my email system and I'm going to say, show me the list of people that clicked on that email. That's my call list. My salespeople now will call Julie and Craig and Ron and Vicki and Kathy and so on. And they'll say, not, hey, Julie, this is Craig with Sales Nexus. I was calling to tell you about our CRM and email marketing solution. That's not what they're going to say. Because that's us talking about us. That doesn't work. What they're going to do is they're going to call up and say, Julie, I noticed that you took a look at our video on building a successful marketing and sales process. What'd you think of that? And that's it. And you'll be amazed how warm that conversation is compared to your average cold call, especially if you do it in a real timely way. So sooner is better, kind of like we talked about before in terms of responding to leads coming through your website, but it's the same thing here in terms of responding to people that are clicking on your emails. If you do it within 4 hours or so, I think you're doing pretty darn good. Same day is good enough. Next day is all right, but if you let a couple of days or more go by, you might as well not bother. Again, the idea is I'm a busy guy. I'm getting all these emails, and something about your email caught my attention, and so I invested a few seconds in it. Not 20 minutes, but a few seconds in my busy day, right? So even though I may have watched that video, maybe I didn't watch the whole thing. Maybe I fast-forwarded through it, and maybe I was doing 3 other things while I did that, right? So again, if you call me that same day or maybe the next day and say, hey, remember that video you watched, and use the title maybe or some key phrases or mention that pain again that it addressed, then it's likely that I'm going to remember that. I'll say, oh yeah, I remember watching that, yeah, and I'll tell you what I thought. Either it was great or no, I could care less. Whatever. Either way, now I know, right? But for the most part, the fact that I clicked it and watched it or read the article, I'm going to say, yeah, it was kind of interesting. That's something that we're looking at, we're thinking about, I'm learning about right now. Those are the kind of things you're going to hear. But if you let more than a day go by, I'm going to go, what? Huh? What email? What company? Who are you? Why are you calling me? So keep in mind that it's all about the timing here. And think about when you make these calls, what are those people likely to want from you? Again, they haven't stood up and said, hey, I'm ready to start my free trial, or I'm ready for a quote. All they've done is read some information or watched a video. So like I said before, they're going to say things to you on the phone like, yeah, it's something we're concerned about, or we're researching, or things like that. Well, guess what? If you could send them some kind of a detailed report, like a buyer's guide type of thing, or a comparison of the different options, or maybe a case study, when you invest in this type of product or service, this is the type of return you can expect to see. That's going to help me go through the learning process so that I'll be ready to take action soon.
Hey Craig, we got a question of, is there a day and time that works best to send an email?
Yeah, that's a great question. In fact, I meant to put a slide in here about that, and I forgot about it. I'm glad somebody asked. So yeah, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday are best. I mean, it's pretty simple when you think about it. People are most likely to be out on vacation for one reason or another on Monday or Friday. And you know how it is when you come back from vacation. You just start deleting stuff like crazy, right? So that's why those days work best. And I'm talking about in a business sense, B2B. If you're targeting consumers, that can be very different. It's going to vary a lot based on the specific demographic, the age group that you're targeting and things like that. But that's another thing that deserves some testing. Try different things. I've heard customers tell me, even in a very business-focused business, that they found out that sending an email at noon on Saturday worked great. Things that really would be counterintuitive. So just try different things and make sure and go and look at those analytics. Look at the opens and the clicks and compare that to your previous campaign and see if it made any difference. So the timing from a business point of view, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and typically I would recommend starting first thing in the morning. Don't wait until late in the day. So probably the best thing to say there is start with that and go with that kind of timing while you're kind of tweaking your campaign and getting it dialed in. And then once you really feel like you got the content of the campaign really tuned, then start playing around with different timing. And then another question that's directly related to that is the frequency. So how frequently should I send my emails? Which is a great question. And again, it's going to depend on who you're targeting and things like that. But I think most importantly, it depends on where the customer is in the funnel. If they've done something that tells you they have some interest in your company, then I think generally you want to be pretty aggressive. For instance, if they filled out a form on your site saying they want a quote or they want a free trial or something like that, then you want to hit them pretty hard. You want to hit them, every couple of days at least, maybe even every day. Depends on what it is. If it's something that they're going to use for a day or two and then it's over, you might want to hit them with 3 or 4 emails in 2 days. I don't know. But don't be shy. Treat it like this. I came to your site and said, I want this. Now help me use it. Be aggressive with that. On the flip side, if if I haven't given you any reason to believe I even care, then don't hit me over the head with emails every day, right? Typically what we'll do is when we start a campaign that's going out to sort of a cold list, it might go every, 3 or 4 days. And, people can opt out if that's too much or whatever. There's a flip side to sort of being respectful of their attention, in that if you put too much space in there, I won't remember the last one. So one thing we're trying to do here is build some brand awareness, and so keeping them somewhat close together, at least not spacing them out too much, is a good idea.
Hey, Craig, there's a question here that's a very simple answer, but I'm just wondering if maybe multiple people have this question, and that is, they're asking, what is the size limit for sending out a video into your email? And I think there might be some confusion there.
Yeah. So there, let's see, let me try to be real clear about this, because there are now, Sales Nexus included, there's email programs which will allow you to embed your video in the email itself. So what that means for the layman out there is that in my email program, or better said, in some email programs, not all, I can click play on that video, and it actually plays right there in my email program. It's, so it all happens right there in the email. That's called embedding it in the email. But like I said, not all email services let you do that, and not all email clients will work that way. So that's kind of the downside of taking that approach. Even in that case, you're not actually putting the video in the email. It's just really controls that let the email display within that, the video display within that email. Most often what people are doing is they're putting an image, what we call a thumbnail image, of the video. So it's simply a picture, and the entire picture is linked to your website or your YouTube, your video on YouTube or something like that. We use a service called Wistia that has some great features that I won't bore you with right now, but one way or the other, you're not really putting the video in the email. You're just putting an image or sort of a link to the video, and then what will happen when I click it is it'll open that video in a browser for me to watch. So you don't need to worry about the storage space really at all. Okay, so what are the takeaways here? First of all, if you're not putting educational and informative content in your emails, you're not really building a long-term relationship with the customer or the audience that you're sending to. You're saying, I want you to do this. Either do it or don't. I don't care. If you put educational and informative content in your emails, you're saying, hey, I'd like you to learn about this. And I'll be sending you some other things, so look forward to that. And that's what actually happens, is they'll look forward to your email. Don't sell until they ask you to sell. Otherwise, you're just going to turn them off and send them in the other direction. Everyone has a campaign. Figure out what the 4 or 5 buckets or segments within your sales process are, where people kind of end up getting stuck or leaving the sales pipeline, and create a campaign for each of those different groups. And like we looked at earlier, that's guaranteed to impact your top line and your bottom line. And be sure and try the sales scripter, because that's going to make it really easy to get those pains identified and start looking for your content and writing those emails. And also be sure and try Lead Ferret, because that's a very affordable way to build your list. And of course, it has all the controls you would want to target the right people for your industry. You can search by industry and size of company and title and lots more. So be sure and try that out. Both of those things you can try for free. All right, so if you really want to do this, here's how you do it. And this is without shelling out a single dime. Start a free Lead Ferret account. Go to Sales Scripter. Well, actually, what I meant to say is when you start a free Lead Ferret account, you'll actually get a Sales Scripter account and a Sales Nexus account for free automatically. So start with your Lead Ferret account, and everything else gets emailed to you. And then go to Lead Ferret, get your free 500 contacts with the email addresses, and then you'll log on to Sales Scripter and identify those panes, and then you'll log on to Sales Nexus and create your emails, and boom, you're sending out your first campaign.
So there's maybe a few questions here around, and I don't know whether you got into this, Craig, 'cause I've been kind of responding to questions on the chat.
Sure.
There were a couple questions around timing of the emails. I know you said the day of the week, but did you get to the time of the day that works best at all?
Well, overall, it's first thing in the morning. It's just human nature, right? Just think about how you read emails too, right? You come into the office and you sit down at your desk and you got your coffee there and you go through your inbox, right? As the day gets going, you're less and less likely to be sitting there going through your email inbox. And so if it's sitting in the inbox when I sit down in the morning, that's the best time overall. But it's going to vary, and you should definitely test that.
Okay. There's a couple questions that are similar, but talking about including links, how to best include links to your website in emails. And then another version of that is, would it be better to hyperlink the video to another landing page? So I don't know whether you got into it in detail, but kind of the benefit of adding links in the emails.
Sure.
Did you really?
Well, ultimately, the link is what you want the reader to do, right? That's typically how you're going to use the link, whether it be a link to watch a video or a link to come to your website and sign up or whatever. So definitely you want to have links in there. It's basically, hey, if you like what you're reading here, here's what you do next. So you just keep them moving forward. One of the concepts that I talked about is that just the fact that they clicked can be a trigger for your salespeople to call them, right? So, you don't. The reason I think that's important is that I find that a lot of businesses get overwhelmed real quick. It's kind of like you talked about in the beginning, Michael, with the concept of the Sales Growth Hub. I want to do an email marketing campaign, but then I start thinking about it, and well, I want to have a link that goes to my website. Well, what page am I going to put them on my website? Do I have somebody that can go create that page? Am I really happy with how that's set up? I got to have somebody put a form in there, and so we can capture their information. And it all gets really complicated real fast, and a lot of businesses go, I don't have time for all this right now. So what I want everybody to do is try your first campaign. Don't get lost in all of that stuff. You can start measuring the results of the campaign, even though you may not be thrilled to death with where you're sending them on your website. But either way, you want to have some kind of link in there. Could be an image that when they click it, it takes them straight to YouTube. I mentioned earlier Wistia because that has the benefit of allowing you to embed the video right in your website, and sort of the traffic all stays with you rather than going to YouTube, as well as some other benefits. So you might check that out if you want. It could just be, a text. Click here to sign up now, or click here to read this article right now. Generally, an image even like a button or something will get a better click rate than just text. But if you keep it really short, it stops mattering as much about the sort of the design elements of the email because it's easy for them to find the link. So we're right at the top of the hour here, Michael. So so I guess we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Well, first of all, everybody will be getting an email tomorrow with links to sign up for our next webinar, which is how to build and develop a highly productive, results-driven sales team, presented by Sean Pickett, the founder and CEO of Sales Integrity. So that's going to be awesome. I'm really looking forward to that. That's on the 23rd, 2 weeks from today, same time, 1 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Eastern. So go to Sales Growth Hub today and register for that. Like I said, you'll get an email that will have a link to register for that webinar, as well as a link to the recording of today's webinar and the slides. So you'll be able to get all that and share it with others on your team and so on. We'll send all of that to you tomorrow. Again, like Michael pointed out in the beginning, not only do we have Sean coming up here on the 23rd, we have a whole series of webinars going well into the summer. So you can go to salesgrowthhub.com and register for all of those webinars now. So we look forward to seeing you all there, and really appreciate everybody joining us today. Thanks a lot.